Hi, today I'm going to show you how to make a little hanging bird. Now these can either be just decorative or you could put a small sachet of lavender inside, hang them in the wardrobe to keep away the moths. Now these are available from us as a kit and I'll tell you a little bit about that later. So you're going to need some scraps of fabric, and I've used curtain fabric, leftover bits, because it's a nice thickness. You're going to need a little bit of felt to make the beak, some beads for the eyes, and I made a little sachet of lavender to put inside, some buttons to sew on the wings, a bit of stuffing for inside the bird, and a piece of ribbon to hang your bird with. And then I also found in my stash some feathers, so I decided to make a bird of paradise. The next thing we're going to do is to cut out the fabrics. So you need to cut 2 for the body, 4 for the wings in a contrast colour, and 2 little beak pieces. When you've cut your beak, you just need to, I've just sewn this round with a straight stitch up and down just to hold the beak together. The next thing we're going to do is to sew the wings together. They need to be wrong sides together, and if you just put a couple of pins in, and then we're going to take them to the sewing machine and sew round the outside. I'm using an overlock stitch here, but a zigzag stitch is just as good. Here's my finished wing, and you'll notice that there's some frizzy bits sticking out, but don't worry about those. We're just going to trim those off with a pair of scissors. Now we're going to sew the ribbon, the beak, and if you're using feathers, we're going to sew those onto the wrong side of one body piece, just using a straight stitch. Using a long straight stitch, I'm just going to attach the beak, feathers and ribbon to the wrong side of one of the body pieces. With everything in place, I'm now going to put the other piece of the body over the top, fully enclosing everything, and then I'm going to put some pins in so that we're ready to sew around the body. I'm going to pin all the way around, but I'm going to leave a gap at the bottom so that when we come to put the stuffing in, we've got a gap here for putting the stuffing into the bird. Just going to put one more pin in the tail. I've added a few more pins to make it easier sewing. So I'm going to start sewing at this pin on this side of the gap, and I'm going to sew all the way around, carefully over the feathers, round to here, all the way round until I get to the pin on the other side of the gap. After sewing all the way round, I've trimmed it up with the scissors like I did with the wings, and I've put a little bit of stuffing in the tail and the head end. Now I'm going to turn it over and put the sachet of lavender into the bottom. I'm just going to use the scissors to poke it in, because that makes it easier. Once I've got that in place, I'm just going to put a pin in this bottom edge, and then it's ready to close up the gap using a zigzag stitch. So the finishing touches are to sew on some beads for the eyes, and you just sew those straight through the head, and then you're going to line up your wings, one on either side with a button on the outside of each. You take a doubled thread and you need to sew right the way through, which is quite fiddly getting it through to come out the button on the other side. You're going to pull that through, and you're going to do that 2 or 3 times, and then once you've done that, you can just fasten it off. So here's our finished bird of paradise, and as I said earlier, if you would like to buy a kit, they're available on our website at sweetseams.co.uk. The pattern's also available, and it's a great way to be creative and use up fabrics in your stash. So thank you for watching, and see you on the next project.
all.